Welcome to today's episode of The Bright Side, the show where we shed light on the real Michigan. I'm today's host, Kate Nault. We're coming to you today from the Lansing City Market. The original market was established in 1909. After a recent reconstruction, the market is now situated along the Grand River. For more than 100 years, area farmers and local artisans have been bringing their goods to sell to the public in a warm and family-friendly environment. Today's episode features stories about a movement in Michigan to create a more locally integrated and community-based food system. The food system is more than just the steps food takes from farm to your fork. The food system is about diverse places and people. It's about the food landscape, jobs, and economic development. And most importantly, the food system is about healthy people and resilient communities. We've been hearing a lot lately about inner-city farms sprouting up across the U.S. But few people know that in Michigan cities, urban agriculture has been around for over a century. Our first segment introduces you to some volunteers from Earthworks Urban Farm in Detroit, who, relying on their roots, have learned to grow much more than food.
My own experience showed me that if you hold up your own and do your part, there's so much possibility and potential in Detroit that no outsider or no insider can do anything to dampen that possibility.
One of the things that the Soup Kitchen provides is healthy meals for our clients that come in, and how that is done is through Earthworks that grows abundance of great food here.
We have 2 acres here at Meldrum and St. Paul, and we develop produce.
So we cultivate, we do everything that, farmers do. We're just in the city.
We have beehives and we do compost, and we develop markets and we build businesses.
So we're also increasing access to healthy, affordable, and safe food in the community.
So most of the foods go from our church to go to the soup kitchen.
I'd say about 90% of our produce goes here to the soup kitchen.
We use their mixed greens in our salad. We serve a salad every day with lunch.
We serve anywhere from 600 to 700 meals a day.
What we do with Earthworks is try to give them numbers of how much produce we're going to use. We pick certain items that we would like them to go towards, like tomatoes and lettuce and cucumbers and peppers.
We harvesting lettuce, spinach,
some small bulb onions. We've got some mixed salad.
Potatoes, spinach, we got cabbage, we have greens, we have pot chook.
Peaches, cherries, apple, and pear trees.
Everything is done by natural, organic processes.
And it's tasty,
The best part of this is that you get lead-free food. We do lead testing when we do this.
They even have programs here where they teach some classes as well as how to eat with their kids of the neighborhood.
When the children learn that vegetables come from the ground and not from a can.
And so we're more than just an urban farm. We also provide education in the form of nutrition education, youth development. We have an entrepreneurship program for youth. We also have an adult internship program.
The Earthworks Agriculture Training Program, which gets you ready to do your own farm work.
What we do here is we're learning everything from seed to harvest.
And we bring balance and we bring identification into what the food system really is. What it has shown me and even the 1,200 and something organized gardeners is that we can take it from seed to plate, our actual self, with just a little bit of effort.
There's a lot of opportunity to provide for our own basic needs, and I'm not just talking about food.
And what their thing is, they try to show love and concern for those people that are maybe brokenhearted, that may be broken down, and what we try to do is open up our arms and try to show love and compassion.
Helping people to eat, it's like, it warms my heart to be able to do something like that.
For a lot of people have written Detroit off, but they have a lot of people that come that want to give their time, their finances, and their resources.
It's almost like when I come to the farm, I know there's so much going on in politics and business, but it's like you come here and it's like a serenity, It's like you come here and you still a part of the world, but you get a chance to regroup and rejuvenate yourself.
Here you get a sense of being a part of something.
Buying our food from the local store and having others prepare and source it for us, we've gotten away from some of those critical life connections that we have with our food and the earth and with nature.
Because now it's more of an appreciation for nature, and when you start learning different things, you're like, oh, okay, that's what that is.
It's reconnecting us with this great soil and earth that we've been blessed with.
So everything that you see that's going on in Detroit, with all the different organizations, with the companies and Earthworks, hoping we do more job services. So we're hoping then later on to create more jobs doing this.
It's just great for the state of Michigan. It's sustainability at its best.
Well, it's so important to be able to grow your foods because you have accessibility.
You know, I can have food 15 feet away from me as opposed to 1,500 miles away.
It's such a fulfilling work because the work that you put in, you get to see the finished product.
Somebody could have told me something over and over again, but until I came in and put myself in it hands-on, watch the seed germinate and watch the transplant go to ground and the vegetable wind up on my plate, those collard greens I'm talking about, you won't know until you experience that.
We'll be very grateful to have you. So, bon appetit.
We now take you to Ann Arbor, where we'll visit with Selma Cafe and CEDAM member Avalon Housing to find out more about their exciting summer project.
Hoop houses basically are, you know, they're big hoops. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but they're structures that have large kind of curved structures that come over that are very simple. They're almost more like tents than greenhouses. And greenhouses as well, you know, are a lot more expensive to build just by the nature of the structure of them with the glass and everything. They're a lot more expensive. Hoop houses are kind of, you know, a bit of a down and dirty way of doing it on a much bigger scale. In Michigan, if you're just growing outside, you've really got a 5 or 6 month growing season, so half the year you can't be growing. Hoop houses are great because they give that extra bit of protection, so they really extend the growing season for gardeners and for farmers. So that you can, you know, there are certain crops, spinach is a good example, which you can grow much later in the year just in a simple hoop house. And as simple structures, they're not, you know, mechanical, they don't require additional equipment. Once they're up, they're there and working. So, you know, maintenance on them is pretty low, which is why there's such a great support for farmers in more northern climates like Michigan.
Well, we're really invested in building hoop houses, but we didn't want to spend every weekend over the summer doing hoop builds. So far we've built, before the 2020, we built about a dozen hoop houses all over our community, including a couple in Detroit. And we thought if we could do 20 hoop houses in 20 days, we'd do it through a chunk of early summer, and then after the 4th of July, we'd be done hoop building for the summer. So that was the impetus for doing 20 and 20.
Has been around almost 20 years, and we grew out of an emergency shelter in an effort to develop a more permanent, long-term solution to homelessness. So we provide affordable housing and support services for people who are have very low incomes and who are homeless and who have a physical or mental disability. So we own and manage almost 300 units that are scattered at 24 different sites throughout Ann Arbor. We started at Edible Avalon with Chris's help and other volunteers as a way to make fresh organic produce more readily available to our tenants, as well as to help people you know, build community, come together, connect with the larger community, and learn more about food and health and nutrition. And so it's been a terrific blend. We have Edible Avalon sites at, I think, a dozen Avalon properties. We're very scattered. Our units are scattered and integrated into neighborhoods all around town, and so we have multiple gardens and tenants at each site work with the volunteers to develop, plant, grow, harvest, and maintain the gardens.
Edible Avalon is really just a project that stemmed from, you know, being able to see this opportunity as well as a need for our tenants to have healthy, you know, grown food that they can do in their yard. So that's really how that got started.
It's a community gardening and education program for tenants of Avalon Housing and also their immediate neighbors. So we go in and build raised bed gardens. They're organic, and we provide tools and transplants and seeds, and then Volunteers adopt the gardens and visit them once a week. They share gardening expertise, learn gardening from many of the tenants, share recipes with what's currently harvestable in the garden.
This was something that started, let's see, 2 years ago. We use a lot of eggs, bacon, bread, and whatever vegetables are in season. Lisa always has a bread pudding with local fruit. In the winter, she's frozen things, so there's always, the fruit is available, but it's local. And we have homemade waffles, and often it's a bread-based thing with a vegetable and a sauce. Depending on who has which produce, it'll come from the farmer's market, it'll come from Sparrow Market, and the People's Food Co-op, which are all local stores.
I know I've been there when they've had over 190 people through between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. It's just really, really successful.
Just a few weeks ago, we busted 200, which was really amazing. In 2.5 hours in an actual just home space to serve that many people, it was really fun. So come on out and eat with us. It's great food, you'll meet great people, and the money goes to such a great place.
Next, we take you to Lansing, where CEDAM member Allen Neighborhood Center is taking a comprehensive and grassroots approach to food access issues.
Quiet nights and quiet stars, quiet chords from his guitar, floating on the silence that surrounds us. Quiet thoughts and quiet dreams.
You know, people have asked me if we have goals, you know, around all of our food stuff, and when they ask that, the person that asked that to me most recently was talking about, well, do you have a goal like we will increase the consumption of produce by 1/2 serving a day, you know? And our goal is to change the food culture of the East Side. So, but the food programs, much like the housing programs, the health programs, any of the programs that we do, can be arrayed on a continuum, right? And at one end of the continuum are those programs that are really, they're really about providing immediate services to people in need, right? And on the other end is the programs have more of an emphasis on self-reliance and empowerment, and so if we array our food-related programs on this continuum, over on this end we have Bread Basket.
You're at the Allen Neighborhood Center, and we're getting prepared for our Bread Basket Day, which means we serve the community with free bread that's donated to us for different providers. Especially with the economy and the price of things, the Bread Day is very important.
Bread Basket is often the initial point of entry into a whole lot of our other food programs, because we can tell folks who come to Bread Basket about the farmers market, Allen Street Farmers Market. We began this in 2004 with 4 farmers. We now have 16 farmers in 2010. We were the first nonprofit in Michigan to be approved to accept food stamps for our farmers. We're really proud of that. So the market was very successful, but we didn't want to stop there, because we knew that real self-reliance, you know, would have to involve producing food in the neighborhood.
So welcome to the Hunter Park Community Garden House. This is where neighbors meet to grow food, flowers, and community for those on Lansing's east side. You come in, you tend to your plot, you offer up 8 hours per month of volunteer work, which helps us keep our actual greenhouse open. And then there are no chemicals to be used unless it's organically accepted, and you are also privy to a lot of the resources that we have in the greenhouse.
The real value of our center is that when we say we do something, when we say we're doing a program, the program's not just shim-sham thrown together. And I think the real value is that when we do things, we want to do things with excellence, we want to do things well. We don't want to just say, oh, well, these are some kids in the park. These are kids in the park that deserve just as much as kids wherever.
Now we've got a worm bin that we've just started. So we can actually...
Like that must go.
Yeah.
I got to plant tomatoes over there, and we got to water them and put them in the soil.
I like to plant, and I met my friend that's a grown-up, and I ate a bagel.
What does vitamin K do?
Heal cuts.
It does heal cuts.
And that is so much more exciting than half a serving a day. I mean, it's culture change, it really is. But isn't that what we're all doing everywhere? What Rio Town is about, what Old Town is about, is really, it's all about building sustainable communities. Good health is contagious. Catch some on the east side.
In our next segment, we'll catch up with MSU professor Kirk Goldsberry to find out how to use maps to better understand the retail food environment.
Hi, welcome to What's a 411. I'm Tiffany Lemieux McKissick, and I'm here today with Kirk Goldsberry, who's a professor at Michigan State University. And he's here today to talk to us about his interesting research on food environments and mapping. So welcome, Kirk. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a professor at Michigan State, and I study geography, and I'm sort of the cartographer on campus. I'm the mapping expert on campus, so I teach courses in what's called GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, and my research usually involves mapping things in urban environments.
Awesome. So what are you guys doing around food systems? Like, what does that mean?
Well, there are these things called food deserts, which are areas within cities that don't have ready access to healthy foods, and a lot of people have been talking about this issue in the last decade or so, but nobody's really been able to put their finger on where these places are within cities. So one of the things mapping enabled us to do is go in and actually visualize food access in a way that shows people that access within an urban area varies from very good to very bad within one city.
So are you particularly concentrated in Lansing or different across the state, or where are you looking at this?
We're looking at it right now in Lansing, East Lansing, the whole metropolitan area here. So there's about 300,000 people who live in Lansing and East Lansing, and what we've tried to do is really create a high resolution image of the food environment here in Lansing with special focus on retail availability of fresh produce in different parts of the city.
And so how does Lansing rate? How's it going here in Lansing?
Lansing is pretty typical. There are places within Lansing that are really good. We have a lot of good grocery stores, a lot of good organic markets, a lot of good farmers markets. However, just like almost every other city in the country, there are places where it's really inconvenient, really hard to attain fresh, healthy food. Particularly areas around East Lansing by the university, surprisingly. There's no grocery stores over there. Yeah,
that is surprising.
And a couple areas here in Lansing we're kind of concerned about too, where it's not to say it's a food desert. There is food there, it's just unhealthy food. There's a lot of liquor stores, there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of convenience stores, but there's not a really good produce section for some of the neighborhoods in this area.
So what do you feel like are the implications of this for the community? I mean, what does this mean to us?
Well, the first step, it should mean that we're aware of this issue, and that's really the first goal of the project, like I said, was to visualize this, to put a picture of the food environment in front of people's faces and say, look, it depends on where you live, and some people in this area, in some neighborhoods in this area, are at risk for obesity or diabetes because of environmental factors such as access to fresh produce. So, just raising the awareness was the first goal. After that, good maps enable decision makers to sort of mitigate the problem in different ways. For instance, with new farmers markets, or there are certain programs looking at getting fresh produce into quality dairies or some of the smaller markets in town that are really helping. But first we wanted to identify which areas needed that, so that people in positions of power could actually make good decisions about improving the food environment.
So what's the solution?
Oh, that's a big question. So what's the solution? I think the solution involves a lot of things. Better markets, sort of working with market owners to say, hey, please stock fresh produce. You know, you're a really big resource in this community, and your community is sort of consuming food based on what certain retailers stock in their stores. So convincing them to stock healthier food is one big solution that we're working on. Another one, again, is to raise awareness that not only that people who live in a quote-unquote food desert live in a food desert, but where can they go to get healthy food? And the biggest thing, I think, is to teach people who have grown up in sort of disadvantaged nutritional areas as to how to cook. Because I think you might live right next to a supermarket with a giant produce section, but you might not know how to deal with a piece of broccoli or a potato even. And so getting people and organizations in the community to teach kids how to cook again, and the value of fresh produce, and how affordable and nutritious this can be for them, I think that's a big step as well.
So if someone wants to find out more about this, or they want to see these maps, where can
they
go?
can look at my website, go to the geography website of Michigan State University, and find my website. And there's all sorts of maps of the local area and different ways to looking at accessibility to fresh produce and other things in the food environment. And I'd encourage people interested in this to do just that, go to the website and look.
Well, thanks so much. I have one last question for you.
Sure.
So what is your vision of Michigan? If there were no constraints and it could be any way, how would you picture it?
Well, in terms of food systems, I think that Michigan should sort of be more proud of the agricultural stuff that's going on here. And, you know, second to California, you have so much diversity in the agriculture. You have fruits and vegetables, the envy of almost every other state. And you don't really see that shown in the markets or shown in the food environment. I feel, especially in the summertime, we could eat almost entirely Michigan products, and I'd like to be able to do that with supermarkets supporting those kinds of initiatives, and restaurants opening up that supported all local food, because Michigan needs to be more proud of its agriculture and its food system.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today
thanks
on
for
The
having
Bright Side, and good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.
We've sampled some great stories about community food systems in Michigan. And now it's time to find out how you can make something fresh at home with some local ingredients from your farmer's market.
I'm Olivia Crant, and this is Fun in 5. Today we're here at the Allen Street Farmers Market, and I'm here with my friend Katie Fritz, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do here today.
When I come to the market, I like to look around and see what they have in season that day. So we're going to go look at all the different vendors, and I'm going to pick out a few things that look good, and then we'll take them back home and cook them.
I was looking for asparagus today, but we just missed it. It sold out. But we found some kale instead, and something I just learned how to make is kale chips. So we're gonna make those today.
So what is kale?
Kale is a dark green, and it's really good for you. It has a lot of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. It's a little bit tough. It's not usually, and a little bit bitter if you eat it raw. So it's usually eaten either cooked, or if you, it's called massaging it, then it can make some of the bitterness come out. So it's sometimes used in salads raw. And to make kale chips, we're just going to need some olive oil and some salt and pepper. That's it. So I preheat the oven to 350 or 375. It doesn't really matter when you're roasting vegetables. Once you get your oven preheated, you want to wash the kale. So you can do that by putting it in a bowl of salt water. It's a good way to wash vegetables, but I'm a little bit lazy, so I'm just going to rinse it in the sink. Just making sure we get dirt or bugs off of it. So I'm gonna shake that off, put it on some towels. Just trying to dry it off a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfectly dry. If you have a salad spinner, you can use that. The next thing, you want to tear the kale after it's rinsed into bite-sized pieces. Or a little bit bigger. They don't have to be teeny tiny, but manageable pieces. and you want to take the stems off because the stems are really tough and hard to eat. Like that much stem is okay. So now we've got a bowl full of manageably sized kale, and I'm going to take some olive oil and drizzle some in there. I'm going to be pretty generous with the olive oil so that the kale doesn't burn, and it also gives it good flavor. And then I'm just mixing it all up. I'm trying to coat as much of the surface of the leaves as I can. It feels like I've got a good amount of oil in there. If I didn't, then I would add more. So now I have a bunch of oily kale leaves. I've lined a tray with parchment paper. It's really helpful to line a tray with foil or parchment paper when you're roasting vegetables, because otherwise your tray, you can never get it clean again. This makes it much easier to clean up. I'm going to spread it out as close to single layer as I can. Okay, that's probably good. I don't want to do it much thicker than that. And the next step is to put salt on them. This is what makes them extra delicious. You could probably add pepper as well, but I'm going to go minimal this time and just do salt. Alright, so I was pretty liberal with the salt. When you eat chips, you want them to be salty. And I'm going to put it in the oven. And those need to stay in there for about 10 minutes until they get crispy. We'll check them in a little bit. Some of the edges might start turning brown, and that's okay. I think the kale chips are done. I don't want to burn them. See how they look pretty dry and crispy in most places? I'll prod them with a spatula and see. Yeah. That feels right. They're making the right kind of sound. So we'll let those cool and then we can eat them. All right, there you go.
I'm Olivia.
And I'm Katie.
And this has been fun in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
By paying attention to our resources, the opportunities, and the challenges around food systems, we only begin to get a glimpse of the amazing possibilities. To quote the Michigan Good Food Charter, we envision a thriving economy, equity, and sustainability for all of Michigan and its people through a food system rooted in local communities and centered around food that is good, healthy, fair, and affordable. Thanks for joining me, Kate Nault, on today's episode of The Bright Side. If you have a story to share with us, visit brightsidetv.com.
Hi, welcome to, no, I don't want to.
If you have a story to share with us, visit www.brightsidetv.
Hi, welcome to What's the 411, and I am your, no. Should I turn?
How does this open?